Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. So today I just have to say I woke up with some spit and vinegar for some reason. So I was like, okay, let's go. I'm just putting the witch hat on. We're there. We're all there. So I want to go ahead and jump right in. I don't know. Y'all can let me know if you guys ever just wake up and you're just like ready to fight or something. That's how I felt today. I don't know why it happens to me. I was so like, I don't know, not as fighty last night. And today I'm like, I'm ready to go. So I guess it happens. Sundays tend to be a difficult day for me just because I'm usually working a lot. I have to film, or I have to like struggle with filming or whatever. I have to juggle it. I have to film before or whatever. And then I have to gym tonight. And it's like, I don't know. It's always the worst gym night for some reason. But anyways, I just have to say, I think some of it is because I'm not having as many carbs on typical days because I'm more of a protein girly these days. And there's a cost, I guess, you know. There's a reason I was eating so many carbs in the past, but I don't quite have to now, but it's still like, but anyways, let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to talk about ulcerative colitis, which is just lovely. I had to listen to Defying Gravity to jazz me up for this, basically, but I feel very alphaba today.
Before I even got there, of course, you meet with the person who's going to do that thing. He's like, it's just fast food. You got to cut out the fast food. He's making all this stuff about how I must be eating something. He told me that there was a goddess within me that I just needed to chisel my way to.
Oh my God.
I was like, I was young. My mom came with me. That's how young I was when this was happening. Then I'm like, I'm bleeding out of my butt. Can you just, do the little camera thing? He gets in there and goes, oh, you have ulcerative colitis. And I'm like, So, which is an autoimmune disorder where your freaking colon attacks itself and creates ulcers. And I'm like, sir, you decided to lecture me about fast food before you even did the scope?
Fast food is inflammatory. Also, obesity is inflammatory. So anything regarding an inflammatory issue will be made worse. So it's actually relevant. Why is the fast food inflammatory? Typically how it's prepared.
And then we saw, you really have an issue. You need a lot of medication and you need these treatments because your body's inflammation is going up. And
yes, and you'd want to do anything you can to bring your inflammation down.
I'm like, y'all, we have to cut the bullshit. I'm sorry, we have to cut the bullshit. Don't be sorry.
It is still related, so it's not actually BS. And you probably should have listened. I honestly wonder, would there ever be any kind of lifestyle intervention that they would agree with? Like if somebody told her, maybe you shouldn't drink either, would that upset her too? Or is it just fast food? Which is such a, I don't know. It blows my mind. I guess back in my fat days, you wouldn't necessarily try to just be so blatantly stereotypical. And I don't even think most fat people today would do that. They're just like a special kind. They really are. Like, it's very bizarre.
Cut out the bullshit of telling fat people their reality without actually hearing them. And a lot of times we're like, well, you just really need to listen to doctors. They're trying to tell you the truth. No, not all the doctors are telling us the truth.
They need to listen to us.
So many of them are making assumptions before they do any testing, and we have to stop accepting it.
Okay, well, are they telling you the truth or not? Because you just said that Alyssa's diagnoses are written in the Holy Scripture, but now you're saying you can't trust doctors. So I would advocate for a more midline position. I think it's fine to be skeptical, but you also do need to take the feedback. If that makes sense, you can get second opinions. You can look for other things. Doctors are fallible, like every human, but they're still going to know more about a lot of things than you. So you should listen. There is a middle ground. You don't have to listen with no questioning at all, but you also don't have to completely ignore just because it's not what you want to hear. Most of our medicine, at least in the US, it's based around management. So once you have a problem, you can probably trust a doctor for how to manage the problem. They might not tell you how to resolve it, or they may act like the things are totally incurable, like diabetes, for example, when a lot of people can reverse it in various ways. But there's, they're going to go based off of what's most typical, and typically that doesn't happen. So that's typically what they're looking at. They're like, well, realistically, if I tell this person this, they're not going to listen, or if they tell them to do this thing, they're not going to do it. So let's look at what's realistic. So then they prescribe a drug. That's basically what it is. They tend to just be hyper realistic, or, even cynical, which I can kind of understand if you put yourself in their shoes, but they're still trying to help. So you have to kind of look at everything, basically. But at the end of the day, you're still in charge of what you do, your interventions, honestly, even what drugs you take and all of it. It's all up to you. So if it's a huge flop, you still have to take some responsibility. A lot of times in fat acceptance, they want to put all the responsibility on the doctor, but then they also want to take all the responsibility away from the doctor at the same time. It's very black and white, and I'm very much a person that is in between. I think just try to be reasonable, understand their perspective, understand what they go through, and what's going to color their view. They're not always perfect, and you can always go to another one. So you have options. It's just a gray thing in a gray world that a toxic ritualistic person wants to make black and white, which you can see that with her diagnosis is the holy writ because it's what she wants to hear. But the suggestion from this doctor, you can't trust it at all because it's not what she wants to hear. That isn't realistic or rational. That is black and white thinking. It's extreme. It's very extreme. Which one of you guys commented about Alyssa and said that she originally had the B followed by E followed by D diagnosis at the clinic, and basically she kind of wanted it changed, which is fascinating to me. But yeah, so that's pretty wild if that's true. The biggest thing is, does a person want to get better or not? That's the biggest thing. And I think a lot of times doctors deal with people who don't. So it's going to be kind of a stereotype, unfortunately. And they are contributing to a lot of those stereotypes within fat people, which I don't think it's good. But if a doctor sees enough fat people that don't take anything seriously, they might start to assume that fat people are not going to take things seriously. So they may not put as much effort. And that's true too, which I don't think it's good. I think, doctors need to work on that type of thing. But to act like they're doing some big step or some big activism or something, or really making a difference when they're just the same, when they're super stereotypical and making it worse, like if anything, you guys are just contributing to the biases in the medical system. You're just contributing to everything negative, basically. Which is why I'm here. This is why I focus on them a lot. They're really bad. But it's not just about them. It's about what they represent, which is terrible and unfortunately all too common.
Bullshit, and we deserve better. And we can't keep making excuses. We can't.
And you know where that starts? It starts.
It is related. That's where it starts. Inflammation, obesity is inflammatory. So it will make it worse. So it is related. Fast food is inflammatory. So it will make it worse. If you want me to get specific, it has to do with the oils it's cooked in, and also a lot of the Frankenstein ingredients in it. It doesn't take rocket science. You know that McDonald's French fries, they have so much weird stuff in them. It's just weird. It's like, just cut up a potato yourself. It's just cut up a damn potato.
With telling people, hey, don't comment on these bodies. Hey, don't say in front of your fat friend, I don't want to get fat.
Yes.
Hey, just to tie it all back together, like, it starts with these smallest things. Like, we talk about how we don't like the state of the world right now. It starts with telling somebody, like, you got to make things uncomfortable, right? You have to make things uncomfortable for
Okay,
people.
but then it's okay if people make it uncomfortable for you. Like, what is this? I want it to be uncomfortable for other people, but you need to make me comfortable. That doesn't work. It does not work. If you want to state your position and fight it, that's fine. But I am not here to make you comfortable. I don't expect you to make me comfortable, but I am not going to sit here and make you comfortable. I don't care about making you comfortable. Just like you don't care about making me comfortable. You think I'm comfortable with the stuff that you guys put on this podcast? No, I'm not. I'm very uncomfortable with it. You don't give a fuck about people's comfort. Why should we give a fuck about yours? I don't. I don't at all. 0%.
You're not, like, people know, right? Like, people know this about me, and apparently it still surprises people on YouTube, but people know this about me. I am not a safe space to make racist jokes around. I am not a safe space to declare your love for Donald Trump around. I am not a safe space for you to be morally reprehensible around. I'm not, right? People need to know. And people have...
By what definition? What definition is morally reprehensible? What are you basing it upon? If saying something against obesity is morally reprehensible, what does that even mean? What does it mean? If speaking out against overeating is morally reprehensible, what does that even mean to you then? And this is the thing that bothers me about fat activists so much, is that they're very obsessed with shame and shaming, but they do it to other people all the time. It is not morally reprehensible to talk about the realities of obesity, to talk about the realities of overeating, to talk about the realities of binge. There is nothing morally reprehensible about it. And I've said it many times on the channel. I will continue to say it. I don't care about somebody's politics. It doesn't change what obesity does. It doesn't matter. Your politics are irrelevant to this discussion. Period. Everybody's politics are irrelevant to this discussion. Period. It is a distraction. It has nothing to do with this. And I do not care if you think me calling out the realities of obesity, the realities of binge, the realities of the lies behind what you guys are saying. I do not care at all if you think that that's morally reprehensible. I would say, given my position and what I know and what I've been through, it would be morally reprehensible for me to not say something or for me to allow this to go on without being challenged. That, in my view, would be morally reprehensible, knowing what I know. So it's not going to happen. It just isn't.
We can have different views, we can't have different morals.
Exactly, right?
Period.
So people are learning. people are learning that you're not going to say anti-fat things around me. You're not going to be biased against fat people around me. I was being a big fat glass.
You change the definition based on whatever it is, though. There is no real definition around bias against fat people. Saying that I was big backed, that is not bias against fat people. Somebody saying something about their own body is not bias against other people. That's not the way it works. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way. As I've stated many times, there is no such thing as a body collective where we're all one body. We're not. That's a toxic ritualistic concept. It's rooted in toxic ritualistic comparison, which is not real. It isn't real, it is delusional. Body shape and size is so individuated that it is pointless to act as if somebody is being biased. It's like somebody saying that they're short. I feel short. Well, maybe that person is shorter than that person, but still, height is so individual. It's not bias. Bias has to do with group identity, and it has to do with discrimination based upon a group identity, which you can't quite pin down fatness because it's so subjective. And there may be romantic trends, but it's a trend. It's not a political bias. It is not a law. It's not a structured society based on segregation of size. That doesn't exist. It never has, and it never will. It would be way too hard to, even if somebody wanted to, it would be way too hard to actually enforce it, especially given how mutable it is. I mean, can you imagine that weird fat acceptance dystopia where it's like we're separated on the basis of size, so one day you gain enough weight and now you're in this other category? Like, it's so stupid. But this is honestly how they view things. People like this, they think because their weight hasn't changed that nobody's weight has ever changed. So because it's immutable for them, even though it is very much mutable because it can always conveniently go up, then it's immutable for all. So therefore we can say that it's bias. We can say that it's discrimination. We can say that there's some kind of legal basis of discrimination against fat people. It's not real. It doesn't connect. It doesn't work. It doesn't carry the same weight as racial politics or even sexuality or gender or whatever. It doesn't carry those weights. It just doesn't, and it never will.
Last night, no.
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 And we really, it's so hard in the moment. Again, we said a lot of stuff happened just within this last week. It is constant, and it comes from directions we don't expect. I'm literally getting my hair washed and prepped to get a cut, and I'm just stuck.
Yeah, it's constant because you're constantly looking for it, and you're making everything about you. So, of course, if you go into a situation and you make every single thing that you hear, that you, even to the point where she heard somebody talk about a comb being fat or skinny, a comb. She made it about herself, an inanimate object. She made it about herself. She's comparing herself to a comb. She's in a toxically ritualistic comparison with a comb. That is how far this goes. Do not give these women credit. Do not give people like this credit. They are impossible to please. It is impossible. It is not reasonable. It doesn't make any sense. 0 credit. 0.
Stuff, right?
About a skinny comb and a fat comb.
And like that isn't the most like offensive thing I've ever heard.
No,
but it's
but
just the
still.
fact that
I'm sure it isn't, because it's not offensive at all.
every
just no safe space.
Right. No, and so like, and not that we necessarily have the ability in any moment or the.
She just went on a rant about how she's not a safe space and she's upset that there is no safe space. The self-absorption is wild. I live in reality, which means I understand that reality is not a safe space. It isn't. You know, people are going to say things that we may disagree with. People will be rude sometimes. People will test your boundaries. People will do certain things. You know, we live in a world where people are not always nice and kind and whatever. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they aren't. So, especially being a grown adult, it should not be shocking to you if you have an unpleasant experience. It's a part of life. Unpleasant things happen. Rude people exist, and people are rude, just like we are sometimes rude to other people. The world isn't perfect, and it's certainly not going to be catered to every individual's feelings. That's just never going to happen. It couldn't happen. What if my feelings and your feelings are in complete contradiction of each other? That means that somebody is going to be upset. They don't think about that, though. A lot of the stuff that they say on their podcast is deeply upsetting to a lot of people, but they don't care. But they expect us to care about what they say, or they expect us to care about their feelings. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't.
Or just even the desire to get into it with people. But when we do, we have to say it. And this is our space to be like, let's stop the crap. When it came to my nephew, I do want to talk about him now.
Yeah.
You know, the stuff starts so early. I think I shared, you know, one of my earliest memories with Uncle Eddie at like a July 4th party. And I was so young, I don't even remember what we did that day. I was probably between 5 and 7, okay? My nephew went with his mom and dad on a cruise. What a life. Like, I never went on a cruise when I was a kid, okay? My sister's turning 40 this year, so they went on a cruise.
Jealous of her nephew.
No. This kid,
He's living the life.
he grew up near a farm. They grew up having relationships with like donkeys. I'm so jealous of this guy. Are you kidding me?
He's such a cutie, too.
He is. He got a little southern accent. My nephew is raised by parents who had infertility issues for a decade, who have like wanted him for so long, and are so thankful to have him. And you can just tell this kid is loved, and he is a lover. He loves people.
Oh,
He loves connecting. He'll go up and talk to anybody, you know?
we need more of that.
We do. And, you know, because of that, on this cruise, he just wants to have a good time. You know, he's in the hot tub dancing with the little things, and he wants to connect with other kids so badly. You know, he just wants to connect with other kids. And apparently on one of the last days of the cruise, my sister got so upset because she saw some kids making fun of him. Making fun of him for his size, making fun of him for his body, making fun of him for wanting to interact with them. And, you know, she could see them doing things to make it obvious to him. He didn't quite understand why they were acting the way they were. And they pulled him away from the kids. And it was like, oh, so we, the adults, had to pull them away from the kids. The kids are being such awful shits to him. And he doesn't fully understand it. He doesn't know why he's different. He doesn't know why he's getting pinpointed. You know, and we're just trying to pretend it's not happening. But what do you do? How do you talk to a 6-year-old about why they're getting bullied about their body? And she just, you know, kind of wrote this thing about how she was hurting and she didn't know how to talk to him about it. And I don't cry often, and I fucking teared up about that. It is so hurtful. It is so hurtful to be a child and to already be shown at 6 years old that who you are is less worthy, less valuable.
So I think it's really important with kids. A lot of times, especially with something like that, this is my opinion. So do be aware, I don't have children. This is just my opinion. Kids are going to take a lot of their information from the parents. So when something like this happens, the emotional quality that, in my opinion, at least from the toxically ritualistic perspective, The emotional quality that you bring to a discussion about this is what's going to impact that child, in my opinion. You cannot control how other kids act. You can't control how the world is. But you can control how you react to the situation, especially emotionally, because a child, typically, especially a child like what they're describing, is very emotionally intuitive or attuned, particularly to their parents. So if you have issues with your body as an adult and you're triggered over the fact that this happened to your kid in a way where you're crying or you're really upset or you make it this huge deal, it can make it actually more damaging to the child. Because what's important to do in that situation is to teach a child confidence, or to teach a child that sometimes people are going to be rude and blah, 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 blah. This is what we do about it and whatever. Basically, because it is going to happen in life. There will be rude people throughout life. So again, I don't have all the answers. All I know is that the emotional quality is what's important. So be in control of your emotions if something like that happens, and handle it logically and teach your child how to logically look at the situation. And that is what would help prevent an issue, in my opinion. Keep it logical. Keep it rational. Because I think what's important is to teach a child to see their body realistically, rationally, and logically. And not pin their self-worth on it or any of these types of things. That's not helpful. Not create a super emotional connection with the body. It's something I would not suggest. And you have to be really cognizant of it. If you yourself have the issue as a parent, you have to really make sure that you don't pass it on, because there already is going to be a genetic predisposition, at least in my opinion, which a lot of people do agree. So it is an opinion that a lot of psychologists also agree with, or whatever, you know. But regardless, it has to be activated. It's not something that is destiny. It's not biological destiny. It has to be activated, which means there is a socialized component. So having that emotional distress or deep trigger that your child will see, you're teaching your child to be that upset about it. So even if I was super triggered, I would work my best to not show it or to not cry or any of these things in front of my child if I had a child. Because you have to handle it logically. And that's what you teach. And then the child will handle issues of the body logically and rationally, reasonably. Because people will say things about your kid's appearance. It's very typical. If it's not that, it'll be something else. You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be universally accepted by everybody. That doesn't happen. So you have to teach your child how to handle these things. But make sure you keep that size perspective. Keep it within the pile of other things. Don't put it on a pedestal. That's where it can get dangerous. That's where you can start planting seeds. So I hope that she didn't cry in front of him, because that would be horrible to do.
The ostracized, doesn't belong. That is so fucked up. And yeah, like part of me this, like, I want to take my armor. My armor sometimes is, they might have done this to you, but you wouldn't do it to them because you treat people well and your actions are this and XYZ. And part of me wanted to tell that to Parker. Parker, you don't understand why they're doing this to you, because you would never do it to other kids. You would want to include them. You would want to connect with them. You want to have a good time, and you're just happy to be there. And I'm like, God, my response to how to tell him to do it is what I've armed myself my entire life with. Yeah. And it doesn't make it hurt not her. It doesn't make it not her. It doesn't make it any less of me just seeing, all the different moments in my life where I've been on the periphery because I know I am a less valuable number of.
You don't want to teach that to a child, and you don't want to teach a child that that's a way of emotionally connecting with others is through body pain, which I really hope she wasn't doing that kind of thing, because it is a social issue as well. It's not just internal. People use it as a way to connect with others. So, oh, this happened to you. Oh, I'm so sad for you. We can connect because it's happened to me too. Don't teach that to a child. You know, I'm not blaming her. She probably isn't aware that that's what she's doing, but children are very impressionable. And like I told you, they're gonna look at how you respond because they don't know how to respond. And I just don't like the seeds that are being sown. It isn't good.
Group because of the way I look.
It just goes to
I hope she didn't say all that to him.
learned belief.
Yeah,
We do
well,
not
when it comes to the toxic ritualistic, it's an interaction between genetic predisposition, which I describe it as you inherit neuroticism basically from your parents, which I don't think that anybody would really doubt that, or through your family line. And that neuroticism can be activated and go into these toxic ritualistic issues depending on socialized factors and trauma. So planting a seed like that in a child, if he is later traumatized, then it may activate it. It's planting a seed. It isn't positive to do that. It's not actually helpful. But if you're within the issue as a parent, it's really hard to look at it rationally and to actually do what needs to be done, which is why it passes on so easily. Which I'm not blaming any individual parent or anything like that. It is like gravity. It's what you're gonna do. All I can do is try to offer a different perspective and help push towards a different type of solution for if this happens to a child, because it does need to be handled correctly. And I really hope that she didn't handle it, and I hope that his parents handled it better, because I don't think that that would help him. I just don't.
We are not born into hating our bodies. We are not born into thinking skinny is good and fat is bad.
Children often mirror the hatred that their parents have towards their own. One comment from a random child is not going to do that versus years of living with a parent who has those issues. Keep it in perspective. And, you know, I am not at all trying to be disrespectful to parents or shit on them or anything like that whatsoever. I'm just offering the perspective. And I'm also pushing parents, if you have this issue, you need to resolve it. You need to. Because you can very, very easily pass it on to the next generation. And it needs to be taken seriously. So, just consider that and understand that you having a healthy relationship with your body, or a healthy, I won't even say relationship, that's too emotional, a healthy understanding, a healthy perception, or a healthy, like, rational, realistic view, a practical view, that's what we will say, a practical view of one's body. That is going to be so much more helpful to a child than an emotional crying episode with the child. You have to live by example often as a parent. That is my opinion. And that's what I'm going to say.
We are not born into believing that differences are bad. It is learned. We've talked about this in an episode about Girl Scout cookies, and it is just the smallest change that could have the biggest impact. change the way.
No. I think it has more to do with the parents, and that is a big change. If you have these issues and you get rid of it, that's a huge change. But that is what will make the greatest impact on your child, is you fixing your own issue and making sure that you fix it. Because then if it ever comes up, and you have to be aware of that genetic predisposition, so always be watchful of it. Be watchful of your child and make sure that they're not developing that issue. And if they are, then you'll know how to get them the help they need. You'll know logical things to get out of it yourself. Like, you can support them to get out of it as soon as possible. These issues are not always deathly severe. They start small and they snowball over years of time. But they thrive on neglect and they thrive in secrecy. So if you've had these issues as a parent, be aware that your child could too. But fixing yourself is going to be the best way to support your child, especially at 6 years old.
In which we talk about our bodies, other people's bodies, and stop placing moral value. I understand that there are people out there who genuinely believe fat is bad and unhealthy. And I'm even gonna say, okay, believe that. But do we have to go and cause harm? Have your own beliefs. Do you have to preach them to everyone? It's causing harm, right?
You do have to preach it, because people like you are also preaching things as well that are very dangerous and not healthy and toxic and all these things. Of course, I need to preach about it. Somebody has to fight people like you. So it will be me. I'm going to do it. I've taken that on. That is a choice that I've made, and I take responsibility for that decision. But it's one that has been very satisfying and gratifying, and I wouldn't have it any other way at this point. But regardless, no, I'm never going to shut up about it. So, at least not for a very long time. I'm going to be around for a long time. I told you, I'm going to be around even longer because I lost the weight. So I can be a thorn in your side as long as possible. I don't know that I'll be an activist the rest of my life, but I'm going to be one for quite a while. This is the mantle that I've taken, which it's very obvious why, if you know my story. But anyways, until I retire, I'll be here. I'll be here. I'll be alive, kicking, and annoying the shit out of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, you can slap that sticker on a lot of stuff, you know? It's awful. It's awful. I don't understand how we've gotten to this point where everybody, like, just like assholes, everybody has opinions, you know? Like,
I know, but you have one of the dumbest and loudest. So, I mean, it's just so ironic that you care that everybody has an opinion when your opinions on these issues are absolutely terrible. Like, truly atrocious. I don't know if you understand how bad it is. Maybe one day you'll see. I hope so. I really do. You know, I think it does need to be stated that I would absolutely love for them to get out of this issue. I would. I absolutely would. I would love it if they spoke against it, if they had a change of heart. I would be wholeheartedly supportive. I would be. And I would be very happy. But it's just ironic to hear her say that.
Came a heavier conversation than
it was a good one, though.
It was good. It was a good conversation, and I don't know that there's an easy fix, but I do know that it is important that we watch our language. Yeah. And whether you interpret it, you out there.
Your language isn't as important to a child and within this issue as the emotional quality. That's what's important. So be in control of your emotions, which I know can be hard, but that's what you need to do. That's going to have the most impact. I'm not saying to treat a child like crap or anything. Obviously that matters. But even if your child were to tell you what happened and you burst into tears, that would be bad. It'd be very bad to do.
Their listeners, us in here, whether we think it's a positive thing or not, we should not be making comments on other people's lives.
I think where I'm gonna take what I was originally trying to say and spin it is I'm gonna do something that I never thought I would do. I'm gonna come to J.D. Vance's defense. And I hate J.D. Vance very much, and that hasn't changed. But I was inspired by Sebastian and Robbie of Love About Nothing. Because they're very right. Sebastian's incredibly right, and this has been making me very angry. Over the last couple of weeks, I have just been seeing all of these like memes and like cartoons and stuff of JD Vance, and wanting to make JD Vance into even more of like a comic book super villain than he already is, along with Trump and Elon and all of them, right? He doesn't need any help being a terrible fucking person, right? But these people are taking J.D. Vance, and what are they doing? They're enlarging his face. They're basically making characters of J.D. Vance.
So, let it be shown that this issue is above her politics, which it's often the case in all of it, like with anybody. People hold this the closest to their hearts. So be aware of that. Always remember that when people use political rhetoric to reinforce these behaviors, it's always above their politics, often above their religion as well. It's their most sacred, toxic thing. I do think it's funny, though, that she said that. I just think it's funny, but she's not understanding that that kind of like nebulousness of fatness, where a lot of times general population, Gen Pop, won't care that somebody's fat unless if they don't like them. Then they care. And that happens all across the aisle. Like I said, there's no correlation between fatness and belief. If somebody doesn't like you and you're fat, then they're going to use it against you. It's very much that way. But it's just kind of that nebulousness of it. It's so subjective and bizarre. But it's just, that's what it is. Most people don't hold it onto such a pedestal. So that's basically, that's what it is, you know. It's that kind of thing. So you have to, if you have these issues, realize that for most people, it's just one thing in a pile of things. It's one thing in a pile of rhetoric, or one thing in a pile of this, a pile of that. Like, people will just use whatever if they just don't like you for whatever reason. It could be political, it could be personal, it could be a combination of the two. It could be anything. But understand that they're usually not thinking about it in that way. I'm not saying it's positive. I don't think it is. I don't think shaming is positive. I don't. I think it's toxically... I think shaming is toxic ritualistic reinforcement. I think that's the best way I could put it. It reinforces things, which is why I don't advocate for it. If it helped, then I wouldn't care, but it doesn't help. So I do care, because it actually reinforces things. A lot of people within BINGE, they have a very strange relationship with shame. They'll often call themselves a fat piece of shit and this type of stuff. It's a part of reinforcing the behavior, reinforcing the cycle. So when you shame somebody for that, you're reinforcing it. So I just personally wouldn't do it. If you want to talk shit, then talk shit, but it's probably better to talk shit in private, because again, people will take it as toxic ritualistic reinforcement. I'm just being realistic. I know that we're not all angels in our private lives. So if you want to do that, then I would just do it in private and make sure that the person you're talking about it with doesn't have this problem. and then I don't think it's that big of a deal. Because again, I think most of you guys, if you're talking shit about JD Vance's size, you probably just don't like him. You know, it's probably not anything more than that. But in general, I'm just saying, like, try not to shame. That's all. I agree with them there, but my reasons are very different than theirs. They say they hate it, but they love it. They love being shamed because it reinforces them. So don't give it to them. Don't do it. And I won't. You notice I don't really say anything like that to them. I will talk about their logic. I'll talk about everything else. I don't talk about how they look, really. If I do, I just say that they're bigger. That's it. It's a pretty value neutral statement. You see, I don't talk about how they look and all that stuff. We don't get into that. I don't get into specifics other than that girl's jeans, which are still a legend, and I still need to make an emoji off of those jeans. So I really need to remember to do that. Those jeans should be shamed. Now that's a different thing.
And making him, hey, look at this buffoon, look at this imbecile, look at
Oh,
this
but he has to be
idiot.
fat to be that?
But he has to be fat.
He's just not innately.
Yeah.
He has to be fat. And they do it to Trump too.
And I was gonna say, I've seen a colleague who I literally have respect for, and like, Trump is a fat, like, I'm like,
Yep.
oh,
Like, no.
I just switched. I didn't say anything to him.
Trump
I
is
just-
like, yep. Trump is a crook. Trump is a terrible person. Trump is a Nazi sympathizer. Trump is a lot of things. Trump is not a bad person because he's fat. JD Vance is not a bad person because he's fat. Nobody's a bad person because they're fat. So that is, so when we say, like, I don't know where, like, it can start so small.
Yeah.
It starts with, it's not funny. It's not funny.
I think that they just don't understand Gen Pop. And like I said, a lot of people with these issues, they won't. So I'm trying to, like, explain it. If you have this problem, this is how people are seeing it. So, yeah.
Right? It's not funny. You can make a joke about how terrible somebody is without it being about the way they look, right? Whether it's their size, their race, their sexual orientation, their whatever. That's fucking low-hanging fruit. I did love, Sebastian literally was like, too many people think that they're funny, and they're not. Now, I know he wasn't talking about me, obviously, but...
Well, and that can be her opinion. That's fine. But a lot of people won't share that opinion. I am not huge on appearance-based stuff either, but I know people who are, you know what I'm saying? And it's not like I'm going to rain on their parade kind of thing, because it's just not that big of a deal. But I understand, you know, people talk shit. So it is what it is. It doesn't bother me that much. I talk my own shit about things too. We all do, I think. You know, I feel like that's everybody. But I will just advocate on this issue and be like, maybe don't shame sizing and stuff, because it can reinforce. It can fuel somebody's cycles. And if you do it publicly, somebody can use that. So that's where I kind of agree, but I also don't. You see, there's like a nuance there. My reasons are different. That's my opinion. I would never want to tweet something or something like that and somebody be able to use that tweet as a toxic ritualistic reinforcement. That's more of my personal thing, though. I'm just very strict with this because I take it very seriously, if that makes any sense. I take it seriously in that regard, but then I also make fun of the actual issue because I think it's important too. So it just depends. It depends. It depends on where people are at. I know me and my friend Eric, we make fun of each other all the time But we're both kind of past our issues, or not kind of, we're both past our issues. And we just talk shit to each other in private. You know, I'll tell him, I'll be like, you're fat. You know, I'll just say things like that. But it's more of like making fun of it, making fun of the idea that he's still fat. You get what I'm saying? And so that can be helpful. Like, humor can work, but you have to be there. You know, you have to be healed or at some kind of level to be there. You can't be all in it. So there's nuance to that, but I would just advocate to keep it private, because if somebody's deep within it, they could get triggered. And you don't always know, unless if you do know, you know. Like, if you really know the person or whatever, then I'm not going to sit here and be like, you can't say that to your friend. I'm not going to say that. But yeah, it's a nuanced thing. It's very nuanced.
He's like, so many people think they're fucking funny and they're not, because this is cheap humor.
It is.
It is cheap humor. And that's the thing. It's like, we have to start small.
And that's fine for her to have that opinion. It's totally fine.
Your comic book villains aren't evil because they're fat. They're not stupid because they're fat. They're not lazy because they're fat. Neither are we, right? We need to teach children, right? That different doesn't mean bad, right? Fat or a different color than you or a different family situation than you, whatever, it doesn't mean bad, right? And letting people know that you are not their safe space to be a terrible person around. That's where it starts.
As you're talking, it made me think, gosh, I've witnessed so many of these little comments, and I just really just bit my tongue. Mm-hmm. And mostly because the relationships were either people I didn't have relationships with, or were not essential to me and my happiness. Was like, but I've been telling the girls, like, I'm depressed and I'm anxious, and I'm like, is it because I'm just hearing so much negative stuff? Like, I think, you know, in general, there's other things, I'm sure, including probably balances in my head of things, but like, why wouldn't I be depressed? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't I when I'm surrounded by this? And I do think, you know, you mentioned it's not like an easy fix, it's not an easy solution. Really, what I am taking away from this is like, can I just let myself be a little bit more of a needle in people's asses? Like, I think sometimes I just don't want to be the needle in their ass. I'm like, maybe I need to be a little bit more, because it's not
me. I'm like, Allie always wants to be the needle in everyone's ass.
It's not serving me.
Yeah, she does, but I don't know if she can take it, which I don't respect. You need to be able to take it if you want to do all that. Sorry, that's some shade, but I'm just being real. You can't be like, I want to be the needle in people's asses, but everyone else needs to be nice to me. I don't respect it. You can't do that, Allie. And I ain't going to do it for you. I'll be the needle. I'll be the thorn in your side. You know. But I understand when you take an activistic stance, or when you're pushing rhetoric, or when you're arguing something, people will get irritated. But I can take it. People don't like that I can take it, but I can. Can put down those chapel boundaries just fine. Which, again, I'm trying to show you guys an example of how to make certain boundaries, which it has worked, for the record. So, anyways. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead. We might be done with this episode. I guess we should just finish it, because it's almost done. And, you know, they kind of just, they don't really say anything. So this might be the last one. I think I'll just call it here. You guys can let me know if they said something absolutely crazy at the end of this, but I can only handle it for so long. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you guys later. I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, we're doing Daily June. Saturdays are for members, though. But every other day, I'm here for everybody. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.